Jammer, jammer, drop the hammer. It's another edition of the Bama Slammer. If you're watching us on YouTube, I encourage all of you right now to please like the video, comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, click that bell so every time the Smack Draw Podcast brand and the Bama Slammer puts out a video, you'll get notified immediately. If you'd like to support our show financially, please go to patreon.com/SmackDrawPodcast, where you can see all of our monthly subscription plans. You can get cool stuff like sticker packs, t-shirts, get a shout out on the show, and maybe you can get a chance to get some of your questions in to our awesome guest interviews, like one of the best ones we're about to ever have right now. Also, if for a one-time donation, please go to paypal.me/SmackDrawPod. All the proceeds from the Patreon and the PayPal go to make our brand better, make our shows better, make our episodes better for you, the listener, and the viewer. Don't forget to also follow our Twitch channels. We stream live on twitch.tv/puttingyouover, and we stream on our personal Twitch channel, twitch.tv/SmackDrawPodcast. Please subscribe, leave a comment, and give a 5-star rating to this podcast on all podcast platforms wherever you listen to. We thank you for your support, and your feedback is always appreciated. Guys, today, my Bama Slammer guest is one of Canada's greatest treasures. He's a legend in the pro wrestling business with a 22-year career as a WWE referee, working some of the biggest matches of all time. He's also a published author of his book, The 3 Count, My Life in the Stripes as a WWE referee. You can hear him daily on Twitter doing his ref and rants, where are must watch. But more than that, he's a wealth of knowledge, a hero to so many wrestling fans like me. It's my honor to welcome one of the faces on my Mount Rushmore of referees and Canada Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021 recent inductee, the one and the only referee Jimmy Korderas. Jimmy, how are you this day, sir?
After that introduction, I am fantastic. I don't know how to live up to it now. I got a lot of, you know what I mean? But man, Dave, appreciate you having me on as always. You know, this is awesome, and thank you for that introduction. That truly means a lot to me, hearing that stuff.
Every word of it's true, sir. If you said, David, who's your Mount Rushmore of referees? You're on it. Earl Hebner's on it. Little Nate's Charles Robinson is on it, and Mike Chioda. That's my 4.
Yeah, so, I got to throw Tommy Young in there because as a youngster,
he's right outside for me. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say he's that much older than I am, but anyways, I don't want to throw Tommy out as an old guy. But still, man, Tommy was awesome. I loved watching Tommy, and you know, you got Timmy White. There were so many good referees back in the day. You know?
Yes.
Yeah, even Bronco Lubich. No, sorry, I had to throw that little joke. I saw him count with his foot one time, and
really?
It kind of threw me up. Yeah, and it became a running gag for a while. But anyways, it's.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, one of the things we do on this show, Jimmy, because we like to have a sports/competition feel, is I love to ask the guests to give me their favorite sports team, and I'll use their colors to do their Twitter handle above their picture next to your Ref and Rant logo, which has the duck and the stripes and the bullhorn, which I absolutely love. But your colors on yours are white and dark navy blue, representing which team, sir?
The Toronto Maple Leafs. Yes, I know. Is if you're an NHL fan and you live up here in Canada, it has been a long struggle as one of the few people who was alive the last time the Toronto Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup in 1967. I'm dating myself here.
It doesn't feel like it's been that long.
Yeah, I know, but it has. Trust me, if you're a diehard Leaf fan, it feels even longer. But yeah, I'm sticking with my guys. I mean, always
your hometown boy. You have to go with them.
You got to go with them. But it's funny because even though I'm a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, when it comes to, we don't have an NFL team up here in Canada, obviously, but in NFL, because I was an old Houston Oiler fan way back in the day, I have stayed with the franchise, so I'm a Tennessee Titan fan.
Titans are my number 2 team, right behind the Falcons. So,
so
I've got one in each side of the NFL. If they ever meet in the Super Bowl, I don't know what I'm going to do. So,
there you go.
I don't think
it's kind of. Yeah, it's kind of like in the NHL this year with the Montreal Canadiens being in the Stanley Cup Finals. They're the ones who eliminated the Leafs, but they were the only Canadian team there. So you're thinking to yourself, do I want to cheer for them, or do I want to see them, get their butts handed to them since they ousted my guys?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Jimmy, actually, the way we met is that both of us are proud members of the Busted Open Nation, and we listen to Busted Open every single day from Monday through Saturday, 9 to 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, with Dave LaGreca, Bully Ray, Mark Henry, Tommy Dreamer, Ryan McKinnell, Gabby Laspisa, Evil Ed Robinson, just the whole crew
Yeah.
Awesome show. It's like going to school every day, learning from them, and that's why I love listening to them and listening to guys like you that just make me a better fan, make me a more passionate fan. But let me ask you this one question about that show: Are you like me, and that when you listen to that show, you're so much less productive in the morning because it's so distracting listening to such a great show?
Yeah, I do feel that way at times, and I feel sorry for my wife at times because, for those 3 hours every morning, I'm kind of paying attention, and, we go down and have breakfast, and it's still on, while we're eating breakfast, and every once in a while, my wife will be talking to me, and I just, hold on a sec, I want to hear this.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And she's there, okay, I'll eat my cereal, whatever it is. But I got to tell you, that show is so enlightening. Listening to Bully, who has incredible wealth of knowledge. Tommy Dreamer, of course, who's also a friend,
right.
Listening to him, very, very smart about the business. And now Mark Henry, getting to hear him and getting to work with Mark all those years, was so cool. And now I know that he's not with WWE anymore and he's now with AEW, but I feel like when I listen to Mark now, there's a rejuvenation there. There's a new energy to Mark.
Yeah.
And you can feel it through your computer, radio, however you happen to be listening to him on Busted Open. I don't know. He seems to be reborn, and that's cool.
Absolutely. Jimmy, we're going to kick off with a kind of a little fun thing before we get into the meat of the interview. Okay. And there's a segment I love to do on this show called Overrated and Underrated. And so what I'm going to do is, again, go with your gut. I'm going to give you 5 things, and they're all Canada related. I want to give you 5 things, and I want you to just be completely blunt, honest, and let me and all the fans and the viewers that are going to watch this know what's your gut feeling and a little bit of explanation. Is this overrated or is this underrated? Okay?
Okay.
First of all, Canada's hockey reputation, overrated or underrated?
No, I don't think it's either. I don't think it's overrated or underrated. I think it's right where it needs to be. They're one of the world leaders in hockey. I'm not going to say they're the best when it comes to, although I'd love to say so, being Canadian myself. But obviously the U.S. has definitely closed that gap tremendously. But you look at a lot of teams like, obviously you got to look at the Russians. They always have a good team. But I don't think they're either overrated or underrated. I think they're right in the sweet spot where they need to be.
Okay. Natalia Neidhart as an in-ring worker, overrated or underrated?
I think today underrated. I think she's fantastic. You talk about the best women's wrestlers of all time. When you watch her in the ring, she not only gets the physical aspect of pro wrestling, the technical aspect, but she also gets the entertainment part, getting you invested in her character as well. And it's in her DNA. What can I tell you? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like, especially today, she is underrated. Maybe years ago people were more into it, but even today I think she doesn't get the props that she deserves.
All right. Authentic, made in Canada maple syrup, underrated or overrated?
Vastly underrated.
Okay.
It is tremendous.
What makes it so different from what I can get down here in the U.S.?
It's not so different from Vermont maple syrup.
Okay.
Because that's very close to the border. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They're right there. But there's just a different taste to it, especially if you get the authentic organic stuff from I hate to put them over, Quebec, our neighbors to the east. But if you get authentic, pure Quebec maple syrup, it is, trust me, it's the bomb.
Okay.
If they still use that term nowadays, I don't even know.
I still use it occasionally if it fits, if it feels like it works. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. One of my personal favorite wrestlers to watch on TV right now, Vancouver BC's own Kyle O'Reilly. Overrated or underrated?
Vastly underrated. Here's a kid, and I feel sorry because I hate to put size as a determining factor, and especially in WWE on the main roster, unless there is something there that really catches somebody's eye, and I think we all know who we're talking about, the Headman, like a Rey Mysterio or something like that. Kyle O'Reilly is so talented, but now he's starting to find himself, presenting a character because, yes, there are so many talented wrestlers out there, but you want to get invested in the person as well as not only just the performance.
Correct.
So he's starting to find that character, Kyle O'Reilly. And as Steve Austin used to say it, Stone Cold was Steve Austin amped up to 12.
Right, exactly.
That's what we're starting to get from Kyle O'Reilly. We're starting to see that. We're starting to see a little more authenticity from him. So I think we're starting to see it, but still a little underrated.
Okay. Last one. Taking a big boot from The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Overrated or underrated?
I almost hate to say it. I think it's a little underrated because you know how it is. People say, well, did he get you? Did he not get you? If they're asking the question, then I felt like it, if you go back and watch it, and I'm not trying to do the old pat myself on the back. I didn't watch the boot coming in.
Right.
Because I figured if I'm looking at it, I'm going to flinch. This is WrestleMania. I don't want, it to look off.
Yeah.
So I basically stood there and took it. And even after the match, little story here, after the match, I went over and talked to Taker. And when I went to thank him for the match, I got a little emotional. And he says, he goes, did I catch you with the boot? And I was like,
right.
Don't even worry about it. I don't care. This is WrestleMania. This was awesome. I took a boot from The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Does it get better than that?
Not much.
If people are saying, you don't mind getting kicked in the head? Nope.
Nope.
Not at all.
You're in the main event at WrestleMania.
Exactly. And the most blessed part of that was I wasn't originally scheduled for that match.
Right.
I was requested for that match by Edge and Undertaker, which made it even more of an honor for me, but also a little more nervous for me because I didn't want to disappoint.
Right.
Because you know how it is. I say this all the time. It's not about me.
Correct.
My job is to help those guys tell their story.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to do the best job possible for them to be able to tell their story. And that's it.
I mean, let's just go ahead and ask that follow-up question right now. It's on the cover of your book. It's one of the matches you're most recognized for. Jimmy, would you say, honestly, of all the matches you've reffed in your career, that's your favorite?
There are so many favorites that I have. I mean, I could write another book about all the favorite matches that I got the referee, but that one is the one that meant the most to me.
Okay.
Because, it is WrestleMania. It is the main event. You're with The Undertaker, who was, and everybody will tell you this, he was our locker room leader.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that he said, "Hey, I'm the locker room leader."
Correct.
He was appointed by the locker room.
Yes.
It was you know what I mean?
Which means so much more.
Him.
Yes.
They chose him as the leader
yes.
every time. You know what I mean? So to be there and with a good friend like Edge, who wrote the foreword to my book, by the way, and it meant the world to me. And I've been blessed over the years to get to work some really incredible matches that are on that favorite list. And if you ask me to rank them from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 or whatever, I don't know what I put where, but this is definitely number one as far as the one that meant the most to me.
Okay. Well, Jimmy, for all of those that maybe know your name and maybe have seen pictures of you but don't know your story, I know you've been asked this question a million times, but when and how did your love for professional wrestling start?
Well, growing up here in Toronto, we were fortunate. Saturdays, this was during the territory days before WWE obviously, took over. So we would get Maple Leaf Wrestling up here in Toronto, which was the Tunnies. Frank Tunney was a promoter at the time. Right. And he drew talent mainly from Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling at the time. So, we got the Wahoo McDaniels, we got the Ricky Steamboats, Ric Flair, Jay Youngblood, but they would mix in with the Canadian talent that he had up here to form Maple Leaf Wrestling.
Gotcha.
But then we'd get the Buffalo affiliate stations that would show Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. Yeah, so I would be watching that as well. And then we also got from a Barrie station affiliate, which is north of Toronto, we would get Stampede Wrestling on there.
From Calgary,
and then, from Calgary. Yeah. And there was a Kitchener television station, which is less than an hour from Toronto, that on Saturday nights after Hockey Night in Canada would air All-Star Wrestling from Vancouver. Global television would have AWA Wrestling, and City TV would have International Wrestling from Montreal.
So that makes sense, yeah, because AWA has a Minnesota headquarters, right? So they're
exactly,
yeah.
So basically Winnipeg, stuff like that. So I got so much wrestling, and I was like, and I watched it all on television. And then when I became old enough and was able to drive and stuff like that, I started going to Maple Leaf Gardens, who used, Maple Leaf Gardens used to run every 3 weeks, like clockwork. And then on Mondays, they would do their television in Brantford, Ontario.
Okay.
And then I got old enough. I went to the office and I acquired the equivalent of season tickets. I said to Norm Kimber, was Jack Tunney's right hand man. I said, listen, I come to every show. Is there possible to get ringside seats to every show, 2 tickets? And he said, sure. And I would sit, I don't know if you remember by old videos, back in the day, Maple Leaf Gardens had that ramp. That was,
Oh, I think I've seen pictures of it. Yeah.
yeah, that was level with the ring. So the guys would come out of from the locker room, go up the stairs, and they'd walk to the ring on this ramp.
Okay.
Kind of like what you see in AEW
Right.
today.
I was about to say, yeah, it looks very similar to
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was right beside that ramp, second row, and I would take these pictures, and I would come back to the next show and sell them, and that basically making the money from that fueled my wrestling habit for, you know, paid for tickets, paid for parking, whatever the deal may be. And I got caught by somebody who worked for Jack Tunney selling the tickets, and his name is Elio Zarlanga, and he goes, dude, you can't do this. So what are you talking?
Wow.
Who are you? He said, I said, who are you? And he told me who he was, and he worked for Jack. And I go, what? He says, yeah, he started explaining all this copyright stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, ooh, am I in trouble here? And but he said, you know what? I'll tell you what, you take some pretty good, just don't do it right in front of the building where everybody can see you. You know, go down a little bit, down the block a bit. And yeah. And then we became friends, and he said, you know what, maybe, and he used to take the pictures for the program.
Right.
Up here. And he said, let me introduce you. And Jack had already joined a partnership with Vince at the time. Right there. So it's in like 85-ish, late 85-ish. He says, let me see if maybe I could get you on board to take pictures for me and stuff like that. So he introduced me to Jack, and Jack just said, you know what, we don't need another photographer, but we'll find something for the kid to do.
Okay. And,
you know, I started doing the little jobs, like, you know, go get this, go to the airport, pick so-and-so up, do all this sort of stuff. Wow. And then, and driving vans back in minibuses back and forth from the TV tapings in Brantford on the Mondays after Maple Leaf Gardens. Like, wow. But it was so cool where, you know, Jack had this big Fleetwood Cadillac, big blue Fleetwood Cadillac. And, you know, I'd be at Maple Leaf Gardens in the afternoon on show day, and he'd hand me the keys and just say, hey, go to the airport Marriott and pick up Hulk Hogan and his wife. And I'd be like, okay.
Unbelievable.
You know what I mean? And
wow.
inside, I'm going, oh my God.
Did you no sell it? Were you like, okay, sure.
I'm trying. I don't know. Maybe it came out, but I was trying to stay as cool as possible. You know, I'm trying to do, sure, Jack, no problem. But inside, I'm like, dude, I'm going to pick up Andre the Giant. I'm going to, you know what I mean? Randy
Was the car
Savage
big enough?
No, it was his car.
Oh, it was his car.
It was a Fleetwood Cat. Are you kidding? I'm going to go pick him up in my 72 Gran Torino or whatever it was. You know what I mean? But he would hand me the keys to this giant Fleetwood Cadillac, and that was cool. Awesome. And then one day after a little while of doing this stuff, Pat went up to him. He says, hey, and I was standing right there, you know, and Jack, he goes, hey, Jack, you know, we got the kid here. He does all this stuff before the show to help us out, and after the show. During the show, he's just hanging out waiting. He says, why don't we use him? Why don't we make him a referee or something?
There you go. Wow.
And Jack says, but do we want to smarten the kid up? And Pat goes, he's in the locker room with the boys. How much more do you want to smarten him up? Here, he's kind of got an idea what's going on here, right? So Pat just said to me, he says, you know, go get yourself some black sneakers, black pants, a blue shirt, and a bow tie, and carry it with you all the time. And me not knowing, sort of, because I didn't know enough to go and ask questions from the other refs and say, hey, and this stuff. So I was kind of like waiting to see when somebody would say, hey, we're going to start training you. And then just one day in Newmarket, Ontario, it was a house show, live event, and Chief Jay Strongbow comes up to me and says, hey, Jimmy, you got your ref stuff with you? And I said, yes, sir. He goes, well, put it on your reffing tonight. And I didn't want to say, okay. I don't know what I'm doing. So I just said, okay, Chief. He says, you're refereeing one match. You're going to do SD Jones versus the Red Demon, who was Jose Luis Rivera. I said, cool, because SD and I were buddies, you know. And so I went, SD, I'm reffing your match tonight. And he says, oh, great. I said, I don't know what I'm doing. He says, just stay close, listen to me, I'll talk you through. And he talked me through the match. And that's when I realized, okay, now I'm going to start asking questions. So I went through all the other refs and started getting, you know, what do I do here? How do I handle this? And stuff like that. And started getting feedback. And from the guys as well. And now, from there, the rest is history.
I got you. But that's a perfect setup for my next question, in that you've been a teacher and an inspiration to not only the people in the business, but to fans like me. So who would you call your inspiration and your teachers in that time?
Definitely both Hebners. Both Dave and Earl, because even when Dave stopped refereeing, he was also an agent, and he was on most of the shows that I would be on. So Dave was a big help. Earl was a big. Timmy White was awesome. Early on, Joey Morella was helping. They used to call us the bookends, myself and Joey Morella, because they would joke that they couldn't tell who was who.
Is that a hashtag? Right? I think it should be.
What, bookends?
Yeah, the bookends. I like it.
The bookends, yeah, maybe.
Like
it was fun. Yeah. Well, there you go. Quick little story. WrestleMania 4, the Battle Royal that opened up WrestleMania 4 with the trophy, and they have the shot of Joey and I standing on either side of the trophy.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they said it when we were walking through how we're going to present the trophy and stuff. They said, yeah, and then we'll bring the trophy in the ring, and the bookends will stand on either side of it.
Oh, man.
But here, the thing is, oh, my goodness. Memories, man. Memories. But the one thing that I learned from all of them was that you never stop learning.
Right.
Because this is an ever-evolving business,
yes.
and things change. And as much as I critique reffing nowadays, sometimes when I see certain things,
right.
At the same time, I get it. I've been in those situations too, where you're being told to do something, and then even in the back of your mind, you're thinking, but that doesn't make sense to me, but that's what they want. So what am I supposed to do? If I don't do I won't be here.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
biggest thing,
you go first.
No, the biggest thing that I could say to anybody out there is accept all, advice given, whether you use it or not, but be a sponge. Always be a sponge. Don't always think you know it all. I know some people come at me on Twitter and say, "You think you know it all?" No, I don't know it all.
Right.
I know what I've learned, and I'm still learning. And you brought up Busted Open earlier, and that's the thing when I'm listening to Busted Open, and I hear Bully, and I hear Mark, and I hear Tommy, and I go, yeah, you know what? That makes sense, and it's something I've learned.
Yep.
In 2021.
100%. Well, Jimmy, you've seen the wrestling business for decades, like you said, grow, evolve, go through different seasons, go through different changes. Then March of last year, the world enters the COVID era. And we watched as wrestling promotions of all sizes and all demographics did their best to adapt, endure, just survive, get through this pandemic. Hopefully, now that we're coming out on the other side of it, looks like. What are your biggest takeaways from these past 16 months, not only from a fan's perspective, but from everything you know from being a professional in this business?
For me, it accentuated beyond belief how much the live interaction with the fan being there in attendance means to everything. Obviously one of the biggest critiques about WWE is, yes, they had that Thunderdome, which was a cool concept. Don't get me wrong. I thought it looked very cool.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're not really getting that live feedback.
Yeah, you're pumping in the noise and all of that.
Exactly. So guys work off of the good talent, work off of the feedback they're getting from the audience. It's like, okay, this isn't working. Where do we go from here? We got to change things. We got to switch gears a little bit and change things up a little bit. So that was the one thing that was missing. AEW had some people at Daly's Place down in Jacksonville when they were doing their TV there, which helped, but it still wasn't the same as having 7, 8, 10,000, 15,000 people in the audience really reacting.
Right.
But it did help their product.
Correct.
That was the difference there. And then NXT had even though on a smaller scale, they were loud, and that helped that presentation. But that was the biggest takeaway, and it accentuated how much the fans mean to this industry and the live response you get from them.
Right. Again, perfect setup. I know these last 16 months without crowds was very, very tough for the wrestlers, the announcers, managers, everybody ringside, because like you said, they feed off the energy. It gives them that adrenaline. And we've even heard guys like AJ Styles and Big E in their interviews say the bumps hurt more without the fans because they don't have that cushion of adrenaline to help them. I was going to ask you, with everything you have to do as a referee during a match, tell us about your relationship between the referees and the crowd, and does their energy or lack thereof affect how you work a match?
Obviously, you're as a referee, like I said before, you're helping the talent tell their story, but you can't help but hear what's going on and hear what's working, and you feed off that energy as well. And again, you try not to be a distraction and not to try to be. You're supposed to be invisible until you need to be visible. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's hard because you feed off that energy as well. You're feeling that adrenaline rush and going, wow, these people are buying into this stuff.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Or, oh my goodness, I'm not here. I'm hearing crickets, or whatever the case may be. It affects you as well. And again, with a match that's telling a story and building to a finish or a crescendo or stuff like that, your energy level also builds with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and it does affect you. It does affect the referees as well. And like you said, like I said earlier, taking that big boot from the Undertaker, hearing the ooh when I went down, I'm lying there, and obviously in my head I'm going, I hope it looked good. I hope it looked good. I hope it looked good. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. But at the same time, did I get tagged? Yeah, I got tagged, but it didn't bother me. It didn't feel almost like I didn't feel it.
Yeah.
Because of that adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of like Big E said.
Exactly.
Big E and AJ said, yeah. You don't feel it when.
Right.
Yeah.
Was there ever a discussion before that match who was going to do that long sprint, you or Charles Robinson?
It's funny you said that, because the day before we're sitting in like a nice big room there where all the guys are sitting over there that are in this match, and so I'm sitting at a table with Taker and Edge and just want to listen. I'm just listening to them spitball and do their stuff, and I believe Michael Hayes was the agent for the match, and the discussion came up to Jim, we'd like to bump you to take you out of the match. Are you cool with that? I said, whatever you guys want to do, I'm cool with. Whatever, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's awesome.
Okay.
And he says, but we're going to need a second ref to run down, and that ramp is, we went out to the stadium. Look, that's a long ramp. You know what I mean? So we're thinking, so who do we get to do the run-in afterwards? So it's funny because we're thinking about all the SmackDown refs. We were brand specific at the time, so we needed a blue shirt guy to run down and do the count. So at the time it was Charles, Mike Chioda, I believe.
Nick Patrick?
Was Nick? I believe he was. Yes, I believe
Brian
he was
Hebner
at the time.
Maybe?
No, Brian wasn't there. I don't believe at the time.
Okay.
It's hard to remember. Like I said, sometimes too many ref bumps. Mm-hmm. But all of us, it's almost like everybody in sync looked at each other, kind of nodded and said at the same time, Charles.
The hair?
Because Charles, no, but nobody thought about the hair until we saw him run down. You know what I mean? But it was more that Charles was a guy who during the day would jog for a mile or two. He was very fit, very in shape, and
right.
We were just worried about the long run. And everybody said the only guy that could fit this long run is Charles.
Absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of building up that adrenaline, I've heard so many stories of wrestlers' pre-match rituals, like Goldberg having to hit his head on something, John Cena knocking on wood, eating Tic Tacs, AJ Lee sitting down with a T-shirt and cutting it with scissors, just trying to calm herself before she goes out on the thing. Did you have a pre-match ritual that helped you get mentally ready?
It wasn't really a ritual. It was more along the lines of taking my time, being up at Gorilla near where the entrance was to the ring, and just kind of almost closing my eyes and kind of visualizing. Mm-hmm. Again, a lot of times it feels, I hate to say this, it feels like today that some of the matches are too planned out from start to finish.
A little too choreographed? Yeah.
A little too choreographed. But back then they would have a set game plan but the finish was the finish, right? So I would just kind of go over things in my head and make sure that I thought I had everything down before heading out to the ring. But it wasn't really a ritual. It wasn't like, I had to go up and down stairs or anything like that. It was just more like, calm down, take it easy. Here's what you need to remember. Here's what you need to do, and go do it.
In your 22-year career in WWE, who had the most bizarre pre- or post-match ritual you've ever seen?
Oh, my goodness. Trying to remember now. Oh. Yeah, I think you mentioned it. I think Goldberg. I mean, how do you hit your head before you go out there? And you know what? I don't know, because I've never discussed it with him. And I'm wondering if he ever kind of did it a little too hard and thought to himself, "Oh, whoa, whoa! I gotta take a break here before I go out there." You know what I mean? It's like
exactly.
Especially in a business like this where head trauma it can be an issue. Yeah. Why would you add to that? You know what I mean? So that one was a little strange to me. John with the Tic Tacs, whatever. At least he had fresh breath. You know what I mean? Like when he battle rapped you and he tore you to ribbons.
There you go. There you go. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you worked 14 WrestleManias, correct?
I believe that's the number. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of all those WrestleMania matches, we just talked about Undertaker versus Edge, my personal favorite match that you were in. Like I showed on Twitter this morning, I rewatched the match of Eddie versus Rey Mysterio, WrestleMania 21. Just the technical storytelling those two were able to do in that match. There's so many more. But of those 14 WrestleMania matches, which one would you say was the most difficult one for you to work?
Ooh, difficult. See, for me, it's the TLC matches because when you're using objects like ladders, tables, and chairs that sometimes, for lack of a better term, have minds of their own. Like you don't know. Yes, you can go through a table, but you don't know how the table is going to react. Yes, you can use a ladder. You can use a chair. Sometimes the chair will bend in a certain way. Sometimes the ladder
a clean break is not guaranteed.
Exactly. No, exactly. So it's the unknown. And if you look, like sometimes WrestleMania 17, when Jeff was hanging from the belts there, and Edge gave him that spear off the top. If you look down at the bottom right of the screen, there's a certain referee who was at the time pretty much losing his hair, trying to drag a ladder to make sure that it was out of the way, so neither Edge nor Jeff Hardy would land on it. I was about to bring this
up. Yes.
You know what I mean? Because first of all, being in the ring and doing what they do in a regular match can be dangerous in itself.
Right.
Adding inanimate objects to the mix.
And jumping from 20 feet in the air.
yeah, exactly.
Unbelievable.
Adds to the potential for possible injury. So my job is to make sure that everybody was okay after every high-risk maneuver, for lack of a better term.
Right. I was going to, literally, that was my next question, was arguably the most memorable moment from WrestleMania 17 is the TLC match. I mean, Rock versus Austin was probably the most best promoted match. But everybody, when you say WrestleMania 17, they think TLC immediately. It comes to their mind. And the most memorable moment from that match, no question, was Edge spearing Jeff Hardy off that ladder. You saw that move, like you just said, from just a few feet away. And Edge has even gone on record to say that was not only the most important spear of his career, but probably the most important moment of his career. Did you know the magnitude of that moment when it happened? Or when you look back now, when did you realize that moment was not only so special for Edge, but for all of pro wrestling?
It's funny because watching it live there from ringside, my first concern was, I hope these guys are okay.
Yes.
That's the first thing that came to my mind. And then it wasn't until after WrestleMania, after the show had ended, where I went back and thought, obviously they were pretty much okay afterwards. But at the same time, I said, man, that was incredible. Yes. I don't think anybody has ever seen anything like this.
Not before that, no.
And then after the next day, people were still talking about that moment. And it was the next day, at Raw, where it started to click in and go, hey, you know what? That wasn't the main event, but people are still talking about this moment.
Yeah.
And then, we did the SmackDown tapings, and then people are still talking about that. So it took a day or two, and then obviously several years later, when people were still talking about, TLC matches, but did you see the spear? Every time TLC is brought up, that particular moment is the first thing that everybody brings up. And so the magnitude of that was enormous.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Jimmy, if you're okay, I want to bring in a question from our chat. There's a lot of guys that are watching right now. One question from one of our fearless leaders in the Smack Drop podcast. Kyle wanted to ask you, what does a referee do if he senses the match is going sideways?
It depends. I mean, like, if the match feels like it's going sideways, obviously, you are plugged into the gorilla position, as we called it. Sometimes, and it depends on who the referee is sometimes, because, I'm not going to lean in and tell Taker, hey, for example, things are going sideways. You guys got to pick up the pace, do something, whatever. If it's younger talent who is not as experienced, sometimes you might say, hey guys, we need to pick things up a little bit or something like that, but you never really tell them what to do. It's more along the lines of, oh, come on, bring up the energy level. Let's get these people off their feet or something like that.
Okay.
But a lot of the times when I'm relaying messages, I would emphasize that message is coming from the back.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And those of you watching in the chat, if you have any additional questions, feed them to us. If I have time, I'll throw a couple more to Jimmy. Jimmy, my next question for you is, I've read and heard your stories about the controversial moments in the wrestling business that you either witnessed or were close to, such as, of course, the Owen Hart tragic fall, the encounter you've talked about between Kurt Angle and Daniel Puder in the middle of the ring, and where that could have gone very badly, and how you had to handle that. But has there ever been a time, Jimmy, that you personally, sir, felt you were at the center of an issue or you had heat with someone?
Well, yes and no. I don't want to say that I had heat with someone, but you brought it up. WrestleMania 21, Eddie versus Rey Mysterio.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
This caught me off guard a little bit because I was really good friends with Eddie. Eddie was an awesome guy. And Ray, of course, we got along brilliantly as well. So for me doing this match and opening up WrestleMania was like cool.
Yeah.
And well, I'll say it. The agent for the match was Dean Malenko. And
perfect.
you know,
Yes.
doesn't it makes perfect sense. So
yeah.
Obviously part of the story they were telling in the match was with every, pinfall attempt by Eddie that Ray would kick out of, he would increasingly get more agitated and aggravated that he couldn't pin Ray and blah,
right.
Moving forward to the finish. So, we're going into the match, and about halfway through there was a false finish, and Dean pops into my earpiece and says, "Tell Eddie to show a little more frustration." And I go,
"This is Eddie Guerrero."
This is Eddie. This is Eddie Guerrero. I think So now I'm trying to process this in seconds too.
Yeah.
Do I tell him? Do I not tell him? What is it? So I just leaned in real quick and just said, "Dean said," because I wanted to let him know this isn't me talking.
This isn't me.
Dean said, "Show a little more frustration," and he shot me a look like that, and I went, "Okay." And then
I think I remember this moment. Were you in the corner of the turnbuckles and he was like in the middle of the ring looking at you?
That comes in a few minutes, yes.
Okay. So I remember this moment.
Yeah, because it comes up again. There's another false finish. Eddie shows some frustration, and Dean pops in again. He says, "Tell Eddie he's got to show a little more frustration." And I'm like, again, here, the whole thing all over again. Do I, don't I? So I lean in and I said, "Eddie, Dean said, show a little more frustration." And he shut the look. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. So the match progresses and it happens one more time. And Dean, one more time, says it to me. "Tell Eddie he's got to show more frustration." And I'm really contemplating. And do I, don't I, do I, don't I, do I, don't I?
Right.
So finally I just said, if I don't, I may get some heat from the back. So again, as soon as I leaned in and said, "Eddie, Dean said," he turns to me. This is WrestleMania.
Yep.
And yells, "Shut the up." And I thought to myself, "Oh, okay." Shutting the F up. And from then on, it was like, the spot in the corner where he's giving me heck, that came from inside.
That was real.
Yeah. And the rest of the match, it was like, okay, 6 to go. 5 to go, 4 to go.
When you got backstage, what did Dean say? "I'm sorry, I just felt like I had to say it." What did he say?
No, Dean didn't say anything. He says, "You were passing my message." Yeah, I was passing them. Yeah, I did it. Yeah. And then, Eddie came back to me and apologized afterwards. "I'm sorry, but I'm in the moment and I'm thinking and my head is going and and I said, "Dude, it's cool. Don't worry about it. I understand."
Yeah.
But you scared me. Exactly. He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, dude." No, I go, "Don't worry about it." But
exactly.
Eddie was awesome.
Wow. I'm going to watch that match again just in a minute, just to rewatch it now. That's.
I'm wondering if it got edited out somehow, but right when you can see him turning around and just go, "Shut up."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
WrestleMania moment. Speaking of WrestleMania moment, really quick.
Go
this
ahead.
Turnbuckle you see behind me here.
Yeah.
When WrestleMania 6 was here at the Sky Dome in Toronto, now called the Rogers Center, I believe. This was one of the turnbuckles that I kind of confiscated after the event as a souvenir.
Wow. Man. Well, also, Jimmy, something I want to talk about now is that little bitty duck you have sitting on top of that turnbuckle.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, for all of you that don't know, and also in the logo on the screen, Jimmy hosts a daily show on Twitter where he does these little bite-sized chunks called Ref and Rants. There's perfect timing. There's the shirt.
Hold on. Here we go. And my
absolutely,
wife made me a mug even.
I love it. Jimmy, real quick, plug the Ref and Rant. Where can people get the stuff you're holding up, and where can we find all that?
Okay, the T-shirt can be got at ProWrestlingTees.com. It's on there. the good guys there are doing a great job with the t-shirt. And shout out to Jason out in Kingston, Ontario, or Napanee, Ontario, who did the designs for it. Awesome guy. But you can get the t-shirts there, and my reference rants obviously on my Twitter at Jimmy Korderas,
Right.
Instagram at Real Jimmy Korderas, because apparently somebody else took the name. I don't know what happened there.
I blame Front Row.
Yeah, so all my social media accounts, Jim, former WWE referee Jimmy Korderas on Facebook, wherever you may, and basically what it is me. I find something that I critique, and it's not meant to be. It's not meant to be a harsh, it's just an honest opinion for me. That's the one thing that people don't get. It's not meant to stir the pot. It's meant to give an honest opinion and say, hey, this is what I feel.
Absolutely.
Could be done better.
Yes.
Let's put it that way. And the funny thing is, again, I hate to blast some of the wrestling audience out there, but I don't know where this divide came from. That it has to be either one or the other that you got to cheer for. I love all wrestling. There's good and not so good in every product out there, regardless of whether it's WWE, AEW, ROH, Impact Wrestling. Here's the thing, though. I have friends in every organization, and I want them all to succeed.
Right.
And I'm not saying, hey, everybody go out and love these guys and go out.
No.
I'm just saying support the business as a whole. Don't say, I hate these guys. It's almost, I compare it to politics. I'm apolitical. I don't subscribe to party politics. I don't give a flying fadoo or flying snabbits, as they say, what color the lawn sign is.
Right.
I just listen to what the person has to say, and if it resonates with me, fine. If it doesn't resonate,
measure the man, or measure the woman. Yes.
Well, yes, exactly. Measure the person for what they say, as opposed to saying, "Oh, we're part of this group, that group." I hate that. So, 100%. And I think it's when it pertains to my ref and rants, it's funny because most of the week I will critique something from WWE, and people will jump in here and there and stuff like that. But then this rabid fan base from AEW, and it's fine that they're cool, that you're into the product as much as you are, but I make one critique about AEW and people lose their minds.
Right.
Like, oh, you're just a WWE homer, and you're upset that they didn't, you're critiquing their reffing because you're upset that they didn't hire you. And I'm like,
oh, why?
Dude, I'm happy where I am right now. You know what I mean? I'm cool where I am right now. It's just, I don't get it. It's just me giving my honest opinion about certain things. And yes, I probably have some heat with the referees in AEW, but I also get that they're doing what they're told. Correct. But there's also some other stuff that goes on that doesn't sit well with me, like certain action. You can get into it now if you want.
I was going to say that. Let me set you up on your ref and rants. You often speak about the officiating, the booking of the referees, and like you said, not just in AWW, but in all promotions that you watch. And rightly so. You're one of the best to ever do it. Your words have so much credibility. The fans and those in the business can learn something from you. Where we don't know everything, and if you see something, even if it's a difference of opinion, it's just a chance to, hey, I didn't think about it that way. You never know. It's just something like that. So go ahead. What are some constructive things that you would tell the referees across the board that would help them tighten the screws, make the matches better, and make it better for us fans?
Just, again, the job of the referee, like I've said a zillion times, is to help the talent tell their story. You are not to be part of the story unless you are involved in in the finish or something like that. But what I'm seeing a lot lately, and again, I'm ranking on AEW a lot for this, but that's where I see it most often, is too many distractions of the referee, but they're so uncreative and uninspiring. It's like, okay, somebody will pop up on the apron and go stay over there for like 30 seconds.
Feels lazy.
Them. Yeah. Yes, exactly. There's no, I want to see some different kinds of. I'll give you an example. Money in the Bank brief Money in the Bank pay-per-view, when Charles took his bump, everybody went, "Oh, what was that?" It was different. It wasn't like he got knocked out with a clothesline. He landed on his knee. He twisted his knee. Had to roll out of the ring. At least it was different. Whether you liked it or not is not the point here. At least they're trying to think outside the box as the usual ref bump. And the other week when Bully questioned Tony about the officiating in AEW, and he kind of dismissed it and fluffed it off as fans don't care about that sort of thing.
He hasn't been on the show since.
Yeah, it's really weird. And look, I get it. The referee is not supposed to be a focal point.
Right.
So, but at the same time, wrestling is portraying if you're portraying an actual sport, rules have to be enforced. And again, one of the other things is there's a 10 count outside the ring, right?
Right.
There has to actually be a 10 count going on for it to happen. And
Right.
it is so simple. And I think I tweeted this too when it happened, when Roman Reigns was outside the ring with Edge. They were out there for at the count of 4. Roman rolled back in and rolled back out. That's how simple it is to reset the count. It's not rocket
3 seconds
surgery.
of work. Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
And it's just little things, like you said, some of the stuff feels lazy. It's just like, oh, don't worry about it. Just go stay with them for a while. Don't count. Come out and check on us. Get whatever.
Right. Well, Jimmy, one of my personal things is, and you're painting the picture so beautifully right now, is when I watch pro wrestling from age 9 to now, I always have tried to view it as a sport. As there's championships to be won, there's wins, there's losses, there's tag teams, there's managers. Everything about it is there's entertaining aspects, but at the end of the day, the point of the match is to try to win, and the point of the match is to try to win a championship, to not lose. And so, with all of that, do you feel, especially, I don't care who started or what promotion made the turn, whatever, but do you feel that it's too much entertainment now, and we need to maybe think of it, hey, are we projecting this as a sport, or are we projecting this as, like somebody said, it's a soap opera, it's a a cartoony show, it's all about bumps, it's all about spots or whatever, or should it genuinely be a sport?
I think you can have a variety as long as it all makes sense. You can do a little bit of everything in wrestling. You can have your your traditional style wrestling. You can have your high spot wrestling. You can have your comedy when it's funny and it works. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. There's room for everything in pro wrestling, especially you look at something like Monday Night Raw, which is a 3-hour show. So there's 3 hours to fill of television.
It's a variety show.
It is a variety show. So you have your match where everybody goes, oh, wow, what a match. And then you have your match where people go, ooh, did you see those? My only problem is, again, relying too much on something. Like, I'll give you an example. Again, last week on AEW, one of my critiques was there was a ref distraction in every match except the last one, which was the last man standing, or the whatever, what was it called? Between Moxley and Archer.
The Texas Death Match.
Texas Death Match, yeah. Other than that match, every other match had a ref distraction and stuff. When you do it too often, then it means absolutely nothing. And that same works in as far as different presentations of wrestling. When you have a match that's nothing but high spots and stuff like that, you don't remember moments.
Right.
You know what I mean? See, one of the things, and people go, but you refereed all those TLC matches which had a whole bunch of crazy. Yes, but
those were organic moments. Yes.
Organic moments. And when those moments happened, they let it breathe, they let it sit, they let it digest, and people took it in and went, wow. They didn't go right into the next thing after that made you forget about that moment. You know what I mean? So
100%.
If that makes any sense. Yeah.
100%. Who would you feel right now, in name as many names as you want, but who are the most compelling characters right now that you're invested in emotionally as a wrestling fan?
Okay, since I was a former WWE guy, I'll start there. Roman Reigns is just on a different level from everybody else right now.
Incredible.
Like don't get me wrong. Everybody talks about who is the best out there right now. Is it Kenny Omega? Is it Roman Reigns? Is it this guy? Is it that guy? He has grasped this character that he portrays on television, and you believe it.
Yes.
You talked about it, suspension of disbelief.
Right.
That's how I like to watch my wrestling as well. I want to have some suspension of disbelief, and I feel that sometimes some fans today don't want to view it that way because I know this is all a work and blah blah blah.
They want to be too smart.
Yeah, but when you watch, pick a show on television. When you watch Law and Order SVU, for example, or Blue Bloods, or whatever the case may be, when you watch those shows, do you watch them and go, "Oh, that could never happen in real life," or something?
Right.
No,
they make
you're
it feel
enjoying
as real as they can. Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
And when I watch Roman Reigns, I feel like I feel like that's him. And I said it earlier today. This is me at cranked to 12.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's what Roman Reigns, and he's in his wheelhouse. He's found his zone. That being said, I also see guys like Jericho. See, I love Chris. It's just he's just awesome, and he shows that he could do many different aspects of Chris Jericho.
Right.
You know, and now
Right.
Now going into Wednesday night, I'm curious to see what's going to happen. You know what I mean? It's going to be a little bit rough, but
yeah.
You know, he's done it before, so
Absolutely.
you know, just hoping the best for him that he comes out of this relatively unscathed. Let's put it that way.
And his opponent is buzzing right now. Twitter's trending big time about Nick Cage. So
yeah. And let me put it to you this way: I'm going to be honest with you, perfectly honest. That deathmatch stuff with the pizza cutters and stuff like that, not my cup of tea.
Me neither. No.
You know, it's not my cup of tea. But hey, if people are into that,
yeah,
you know, that's your thing.
Right.
You know, just because it's not my thing doesn't mean it's wrong.
Right.
Nothing is right or wrong. What works is right.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
I agree.
And I gotta throw out some props to some other of my Canadian buddies. Big fan of Ethan Page right now on AEW.
All ego.
Love what he's doing.
Man, he's doing good work.
You know, him and Sean Spears, and in Impact Wrestling, Josh Alexander.
Yes.
You talk about underrated. There's a guy that's underrated.
Yes, he's got a bright future.
Yes,
absolutely.
He does.
Absolutely. Yeah. Jimmy, I want to pull the curtain back just a little bit. I have a comparison that I use a lot when it comes to pro wrestling, and that is if I go to a magic show, I don't want to know how a magician does the trick because then there's no magic.
Right.
When I, myself as a wrestling fan, I try to avoid spoilers, avoid surprise, and enjoy surprises when they happen because I don't want to be so in the know about a match or the backstage business that I lose what makes it special to me since when I was a kid. However, I enjoy learning about the wrestling business from Busted Open, from guys like you, from interviews, active wrestlers, referees, managers, listening to reputable pro wrestling shows. Where do you feel is the correct balance for a wrestling fan like me that can avoid becoming too smart, but also not go and become too uneducated as a fan? Where's the balance, and how do we maintain a balance?
That's the challenge nowadays, is maintaining that balance, like you said, because you have those websites out there, you have those newsletters out there, if they still exist in print. I don't know. I guess you can access them online, no problem.
Yeah. I'm sure somebody gets them mailed every month.
Yeah, I'm sure there is a few still out there. That's the problem. I think, like you said, that's the perfect comparison is the magician thing, because I like being in the kept in the dark on certain things, and like, hey, how did they do that? How did they make this disappear?
Exactly.
How did they saw the woman in half? How did they? You know what I mean? I like the question marks, but unfortunately, we live in a society and a time now where people want to know the answers to everything, and sometimes you don't need to know the answers. So I like surprises. And one thing that I give credit to AEW for doing is those surprises.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Well. They're not letting stuff get out there, which is very good. You know, big credit to them for doing that, and I love that. And you know, contrary to popular opinion, people think I don't like AEW. I do. I just want them to do better.
Right. And following up to that question, Jimmy, what do you personally feel is the proper balance for the wrestlers, the referees, and the announcers, etc., to protect the business, especially from dirt sheet writers and from people that would spoil it? How what would you say to if they ever watch, if they ever see snippets of this interview, what would you say to companies and wrestlers and talent to protect the business?
Pick your spots. I mean, like, let me put it to you this way. Some of the surprises that we saw, like Mark Henry coming out, huge surprise.
His son didn't even know.
Yeah, that was a cool moment, and moments like that. But then we hear little snippets. Oh, John Cena's coming back, and that sort of thing. But see, and this is where I almost feel like I contradict myself. It's like that makes kind of sense because now you're getting a buzz out there from someone from the Attitude Era who is a huge star, and now people are starting to talk. And as you can see, you know, he's back, and people love him, and they're reacting. And it's almost like that "don't know what you got till it's gone" moment, because you're getting, you know, a smattering of "let's go Cena, Cena sucks," a little bit of Cena sucks,
but not near what he used to get.
He's getting monster reactions now, which is amazing, and I like that, and I like the fact that he's, you know, people are saying, this is a bad reference. Canadians will get this more than in the U.S., but we have a legendary singer up here by the name of Gordon Lightfoot. Mm-hmm. And his songs are very classical, very storytelling, and when you're young and you're listening to Gordon Lightfoot, you're saying, this old guy, I'm not into him. But as you start getting older, you start listening to a song and you're going, wow, that's a hell of a story he's talking about.
Yeah.
He's singing a great song. And then you get to my age and you go, I'm a Gordon Lightfoot fan. Love it.
Wow.
You start to get it. That's what the wrestling business is.
Right.
When you're young, you think you got a handle on where to go and what to do. And then once you start getting your experience in and start listening to listen to the veterans, because you can incorporate what you want to do, but still old school meets new school.
Right.
And blend it together. And I think for my money, and again, not trying to be the Homer guy, I think that's what NXT is doing right now.
Yes.
Is they're blending old school with new school.
Old school rules, new school tools.
Yes. I think they're blending them together, for me, better than anybody right now. Not that the other guys are doing bad.
Right.
I'm just saying that in that vein, I think they're doing it right.
Absolutely. NXT is my favorite show of the week for exactly what you just said. And again, like you said, who's running the show? Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Road Dogg, Norman Smiley. All this guys that get it, that understand what the fans need. Exactly.
But the guys you just named, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, all those guys, they revolutionized wrestling when they were in the ring doing it. They changed the game.
No pun intended.
Pardon the pun. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Bad Korderas jokes, as Ed used to call them. But they changed the game, but at the same time didn't take away from what the old school, they told stories. They used psychology. They didn't just go out there and just want to go crazy. Right. Sort of.
All right. Well, Jimmy, we're going to bring this plane in for a landing. The last thing I want to do with you today is your legendary career as a referee in the WWE spans from 1987 to 2009. This means that your career spans 4 of the branded eras of the company. I'm going to name an era that you worked in as a referee, and I want you to just take a minute or two and describe how you felt about the era at the time you were in it, and now looking back at that era, what made it unique and different from any era before or after it. Okay?
Okay. I will do my best.
Absolutely. Let's start with 1982 to 1992, the golden era, or some call it the Federation era. Talk about it.
It was incredible because that's when it changed from, like I said earlier, I was a big fan of the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, which was in-ring talent. It was based on, let's make this look as legit as possible, that sort of stuff. And then it developed into the more entertainment aspect. You talk about underrated. Hogan as an actual worker in the ring.
Right.
Very underrated, because if you see his work in Japan.
Yes.
You'd go, wait, this isn't the same guy we saw. But that's not what they wanted at the time. They wanted a larger-than-life character, catering to a younger audience, getting that more, for lack of a better term, Disney feel. Mm-hmm. And of course, some of the talents were like, I don't know about this, but it worked for that time. Right. And it transitioned the business into a different direction. Gotcha. And it worked. It worked for them. Okay. So. Was I entertained by it? Yes, I was entertained. Were there times where I say, yeah, that's a little too cartoonish? Mm-hmm. In my mind, yes, of course. But again, it is a business, and it worked for them at that time. Okay. So I'm not going to complain about it. You know what I mean? From a business standpoint.
Okay. 1993 to 1996, the new generation era.
That's when things started to kind of transition back to, now we're going to put more of an emphasis on the in-ring product. Mm-hmm. We're still going to keep characters. We're going to develop those characters. We got to get people invested in the characters, but at the same time, we got to give them some action. Right. In the ring. So you had some good young talents at that time coming in.
Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels, Big Daddy Diesel. Yes.
Yeah. Bret Hart, who was already there, but Bret got the shine at that time. Right. But it was a nice blend. That back in that era, it was a nice blend of the old school meets the new school, and they did it right with letting old school put new school over. Right. So that was a nice transition there. Absolutely. It may not have been as popular with fan wise as it was with the era before, but it was starting to transition that way. They're starting to pick back up. Yeah.
1997 to 2002, most people's favorite, the Attitude Era.
Oh, it was so much fun, and at the same time ridiculous at times, like you give birth to a hand and you're doing all that kind of stuff.
Ministry of Darkness.
Yes. Yeah. But you know what? It was a time where everybody experimented with different things, and the guys had a lot of input into what they were doing, and they were trying different things and seeing what works. And that was the era too that, believe it or not, if I could throw a little story in there, I got to shine for.
Please.
Like I said, it's not about me, but accidentally got thrown into a storyline because we were joking around.
I remember reading about this. Yes.
Yes, it was the referee strike angle.
Right.
I had just gotten married. I went on. JR was gracious enough to let me have 2 weeks for a honeymoon. So we went on our honeymoon, and while I was away, they started the storyline where the referees were being abused, and then they started their picket line, and they brought in the scab referees.
And you weren't there to partake in it. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I come back, and I'm going, what's going on, guys? So they're explaining this to me, and I'm going, oh, wow. So I guess I'm just going to be outside holding a sign today. I don't know. And I run into Hunter in the hallway, and Hunter says, hey, Corduroy. He used to call me Corduroy. Hey, Corduroy, welcome back. How was the honeymoon? I said, it was awesome, man. It was great. He says, too bad you don't have a job when you come back. Ha, ha, ha. And I was like, Hunter, I just got married. I can't afford to not work. I need the paycheck. Ha, ha. Ha, 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 whatever. And he went, yeah, that's what. Oh, wait a minute. Come with me. So he brought me in, and he took me over to JR. He says, JR, he doesn't know it, but he just came up with an idea. So they said, why don't we have him come be the one,
wow,
rostered referee that breaks the picket line and
wow.
goes, and then we could work it in somewhere where the other guys come in and he gets his comeuppance from the other guys.
That's incredible.
And just from like clowning around and just throwing a joke back and forth, that's where it came from.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Finally, Jimmy, my personal favorite era in wrestling, 2003 to 2009, the Ruthless Aggression era.
Yeah. It was amazing because that's when you really saw guys like John Cena, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve. Look at those three.
Right.
All at the same time, pretty much. And it just, everybody felt like a star.
Yes, that's
during that era.
yes.
You know what I mean? And unfortunately, it doesn't feel that way now. There's a lot of wonderful talent on that WWE roster, but there's very few guys that feel like stars. Obviously, I mentioned Roman Reigns earlier. He feels like a star. Bobby Lashley is now starting to find that groove with a lot of help from MVP.
Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, they're stars.
Yes. But we're not getting that depth.
Right.
That we had like in that era. There is a big drop off, and there is potential there because you do have your Kevin Owens, you do have your Sami Zayns, you have your Cesaros. Underrated, you talk about underrated, Baron Corbin. There's a guy, I believe it or not, I actually reached out to a former superstar and said that he has to pair up with Baron Corbin. I don't know if I should divulge this here because anyway, I will.
I don't like surprises.
Okay. No, I don't think it's going to happen, but I just would love to see it. A former WWE superstar, and Baron Corbin getting together. Anyways,
absolutely,
it's very cool. But that's the biggest takeaway from that era is everybody felt like a big star.
Absolutely,
and I don't get that same feeling today, unfortunately. And that's not just in WWE. That's pretty much like I'll give you an example. Like you get a guy like Jungle Boy who was main eventing Dynamite a couple of weeks ago, and then he's on the YouTube show. And I get it, they only have 2 hours a week right now on television to showcase their talent, but at the same time, how do you go from main eventing and getting over without going over and taking such a that's the challenge there. And hopefully when Rampage is on, that they can remedy that a little bit. But
I 100% agree. It's so frustrating, especially when you have people that you love personally. For me, like a Rhea Ripley, like a Keith Lee, okay, Jimmy, take a moment.
Yep.
Was Karrion Kross handled correctly?
For me, no. It was so much a watered down version of what we see on NXT, and not only that, the circumstances surrounding it. It was a minute and whatever. Look, don't get me wrong. I love Jeff Hardy, but for Jeff Hardy to not only defeat him in the manner that he did, feet on the ropes. Baby faces don't cheat to win unless they're being cheated on first.
Correct.
And it's kind of like, hey, you tried to cheat to beat me. This is how you do it. That's kind of like a retribution kind of thing.
Exactly.
It to me, it made zero sense, and you killed the momentum of a guy who had a ton of momentum. And yes, I get it. Not everybody that watches NXT watches Raw.
Right.
Or watches Raw, watches NXT.
I know what you meant.
Sorry,
I know what you meant.
The other way around.
Right.
You know, but at the same time, if you want to build this guy up, here's a guy, you know, tailor-made for that main roster that I think, can they get that momentum back? It's going to be a challenge, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to take time. But I think right now they've really damaged that character. Now on NXT, obviously he's back to being Killer Cross, whatever it is, you know, taking out William Regal, and now he's, I guess, going to be in a rivalry with Samoa Joe. It looks like, which is good. But the only way that he benefits from that, and it's kind of like, I'm going to get into this a little bit too, with Lashley versus Goldberg. The best way for this to work, Lashley has to dominate Goldberg.
Yes,
I feel.
Yes,
for this to go forward. You know what I mean? And it's, again, no disrespect meant towards Goldberg, real good guy, but at the same time, if you're going to build this current iteration of Bobby Lashley, he has to dominate him the way he dominated
Kofi.
Almost the same. I mean, obviously Bill can get some offense in that's not believable, wrong set of words, but can get some offense in on Bobby, but Bobby has to be very dominant in this thing, in my opinion. And that's how, unfortunately, I think Karrion Kross needs to be against Joe, even though I think Joe is just happy to see him hopefully back in the ring and everything's cool, but at the same time, building the next generation.
Right. Absolutely. 100% agree. Jimmy, thank you so much for the time you've given us today. In just a minute, I'm going to let you plug everything. Everybody that are watching, you just witnessed a masterclass from one of the greatest to ever put the stripes on. If you're watching this again on YouTube, please like, comment on this video, subscribe. This video is worth it. Also, make sure that you click the bell so that you don't miss a single video every time we post one. Again, if you want to support our show financially, go to patreon.com/SmackDrawPodcast, or for a one-time donation, paypal.me/SmackDrawPod. Don't forget to subscribe to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/SmackDrawPodcast. And also, if you're listening to this in a podcast form, subscribe and like and leave a 5-star rating. Jimmy Korderas deserves a 5-star rating for this podcast. So please make sure you do that. Your support is always appreciated. Thank you for your feedback. Mr. Jimmy Korderas, the floor is yours. Please tell us where we can find you on social media, where we can get your ref and rant stuff, and what you're working on right now.
Okay, like I said, Ref and Rant t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. 2 versions of it, and maybe working on a different kind of shirt because, as I like to do, one of the things I like to do now, I like to cook. So maybe from ref to chef is
from ref, in the works. The chef ref. I like it.
Yeah. Like so it. You know, I'm getting into that. So who knows? Maybe there's a shirt in the works there as well.
Maybe.
But you can find my Ref and Rants weekdays at Jimmy Korderas on Twitter, at Real Jimmy Korderas on Instagram, and also all my Facebook pages, everywhere on social media. I like having fun with it. That's what it's meant to be. Spark some debate, but let's be civil.
Absolutely.
But with the debate, we don't have to be at each other's throat. And all I can say is, you know, this is a great time for wrestling. There's a lot of buzz. Yes. There's a lot going on. Let's try to enjoy it. I'm not saying you have to love everything, but let's be happy that, you know, the business is starting to pick back up and people are talking about it in more of a positive fashion. And let's not be so, you either got to be this side or that side. We could disagree respectfully. That's all. And I want to thank you, Dave. Awesome. I really enjoyed our chat today.
I enjoyed it immensely,
sir. It meant a lot being on here today.
It meant a lot to me, again, as a lifelong fan. Thank you so much, Jimmy. Thank you, all of you, for watching. All the people that watched in the chat for your questions and comments. Thank you so much. And until the next time we drop the hammer, thank you for watching us and listening to the Bama Slammer. Good day, everybody.